Good morning again, everyone. My name's Siobhan Davis, and I'm the Director of Community Outreach for the Atlantic County Prosecutor's Office. Thank you to each and every person for supporting us today, bright and early on a Friday morning. And welcome to Breaking Bias, Bridging Divides in Criminal Justice. So one of the primary roles of the Atlantic County Prosecutor's Office as the chief law enforcement agency in the county is to prosecute and investigate crimes. But we perform and represent so much more than that. As leaders in public safety, we have a duty to ensure that citizens and visitors in our county feel protected and safe. We also have a duty to build trust and genuine connections with the community, which is the objective of the Community Outreach Unit that Prosecutor William Reynolds created in June 2022. In the Outreach Unit's inaugural year, in November, as a response from a directive from the Office of the Attorney General, Executive Assistant Prosecutor Rick McKelvey and ACPO's first and former Director of Community Outreach, Raymond Royster, put on a conference on combating bias and hate, in which we uplifted the voices of groups that disproportionately experience bias and discrimination in the criminal justice system and beyond. I am very proud to say that as a response to this initiative, we have made commitments to address each and every one of those groups. We've done this through programs and initiatives like our Protecting Houses of Worship seminars, our Atlantic County Safe Place program, our special needs mentorship programs, and creating several more community connections for future endeavors and collaborations. Today's event represents a continuation of that Combating Bias and Hate conference with the same mission in mind: to break barriers by addressing bias and discrimination within a criminal justice context. ACPO's Bias Crime Liaison, Chief Assistant Prosecutor Erica Haleko, wanted to impart the following quote: "Bias crime continues to be a problem, and the Atlantic County Prosecutor's Office is doing everything we can, such as working with law enforcement and victims through victim witness, to investigate and prosecute these cases. Even instances where a bias incident doesn't rise to the level of a bias crime, we encourage the community to reach out to law enforcement because every single bias incident is taken seriously." Unfortunately, today we can't cover all topics on bias, hate, and discrimination in a 2.5-hour span, but we seek to cover some important ground, and the discussions that we do have on deck for today will be really significant topics. This includes the Safe Place Initiative, interfaith relations, the immigrant population, and the special needs community. Thank you to Prosecutor William Reynolds, Executive Assistant Prosecutor Rick McKelvey, my Deputy Director of Community Outreach, Rich Cornett, and Karen Campanelli, our detective here. Thank you so much for all of your hard work and collaboration putting all of this together. Thank you to all of our panelists and to all attendees who are supporting both our agency and the fight against bias and discrimination. Before we officially get started today, please refer to the QR codes that are on your table for a program and a program flow of today's event. In lieu of a Q&A session at the end of today's event, there will be QR codes at the front at the registration table for a post-event interaction survey. We would love to know what you thought of the event, if you learned anything, and any recommendations for us. So I'd like to bring to the stage our chaplain, the first chaplain of Atlantic County Prosecutor's Office, Pastor Lou Strigala.
Good morning, everybody. As we come together in prayer this morning, I invite us to look around the room and recognize that all of us, though we are different, are all the same inside. That's how we were created. That's how we live together in harmony. And that's how we should come together to call upon a divine presence to guide us through today. Let's pray. Gracious God, Creator of all things, we give you thanks today for the opportunity to gather. We call you by so many different names. We call you as friend. We call you as comforter. But today we call you for the wisdom that we may have in our discussions, in our learning, in our understanding of one another's needs and the dignity that comes with it. Bless our efforts, bless our time, and bless the results of this conference, that they may make a difference for all of your children here on this earth. For we pray in your holy name. Amen.
Thank you so much, Pastor Lou. And next, we will have welcoming remarks from the Atlantic County Prosecutor, William Reynolds.
Good morning. So, I've been the prosecutor for a little over 2 years, 2 years, 3 months, a couple days, but who's counting? One of the things that I learned is brevity is the soul of wit. I've been long-winded at many conferences, events, and instances, and I've really worked hard to be self-aware that, shorter sometimes is sweeter, regardless of the audience or the importance of the event. It's the meaningful, not the volume of the words. With that being said, and learning from past mistakes, errors, and feedback from people that I really trust, I am going to be short, sweet, impactful, and heartfelt as I wear my emotions on my sleeve quite often because I really care about Atlantic County. Born and raised here over in Brigantine, raised by blue-collar mom and dad. Dad was a truck driver, mom cleaned toilets for a living. Never imagined that I would be a lawyer, let alone be the county prosecutor. So it's a humbling journey to be here. And to be able to organize events like this is rewarding and impactful because you're actually able to move the needle and have people have meaningful discussions that really matter, things that affect people's lives every day. Before I actually begin on the substance, I want to give credit where credit is due. Siobhan Davis, Rick McKelvey, and Rich Cornett, they put this together. And they spent a lot of time, energy, and effort and communication not only inside the office, but outside the office, and it's a testament to their dedication to the mission of the Atlantic County Prosecutor's Office to serve the citizens of Atlantic County, and for that, I'm very grateful for all three of you. Thank you. So, I've been blessed with this position, and Siobhan indicated in her introduction that we've had these initiatives and different programming that we set up, and it was a direct result of feedback from the community, from people that are engaged with us and engaged with the law enforcement community, religious community, social service community, and I think all public entities. We've been blessed to have the ability to ask people to show up, and because of the agency and the position, people do. So first and foremost, thank all of you for being here. I know it's a Friday morning. I know everybody has a busy schedule and obligations with family and work and business and sports and extracurricular activities, so thank you. So we're here to address a topic that's as vital as it is timely: breaking bias and bridging gaps within our criminal justice system. I like to personalize stories to give aspect on why I do things and why is the prosecutor here and why is the prosecutor's office engaged. So, grew up in Brigantine, lower middle class at best, and I went to college at Rutgers, and I went with 5 different guys that are 1 year apart. Some of us were freshmen, some of us sophomores, and we all decided we were not going to live together. And I got placed in student housing, and I got placed in an apartment with 3 upperclassmen. All 3 upperclassmen were African American, all from North Jersey. All were friends, all were members of a fraternity, all had girlfriends, and I had no idea what I was walking into. And the first month, I'll be very direct, was a difficult month being away from home for the first time. There was a period of time where no one spoke to me in the apartment at all, even though I attempted to get them to address me. By mid-October, we were hanging out, watching movies, underage drinking beers, and having a really good time. And what happened? We broke down the barriers between us, and we found common ground. And the common ground I found with the 3 gentlemen I lived with that year was sports. And me being a sports nut and being knowledgeable about sports gave me credibility with them. And they gave me credibility when we went to the dining hall together and sat at a table eating lunch together. And it was an amazing journey because growing up in Brigantine and going to Holy Spirit, I was exposed to things my freshman year of college, living with those 3 gentlemen, that impacted me for the rest of my life. And I'm forever indebted to them because they opened my eyes to a lot of things that I never saw growing up in Brigantine. Then I moved forward to meeting my now ex-wife, and she was Greek Orthodox. Parents, immigrants came here with nothing at 16 years old, and they built a life, and I was not a Greek coming into a Greek house, and they wanted zero to do with me because they envisioned their daughter marrying a Greek man from the village where they were from in the northern part of Greece. And it took 2 years to actually get in the house. And once I got in the house, I endeared myself to them. And within 6 months, I was on the Greek Orthodox Church Executive Board. And within 3 years, I was president of the Greek Orthodox Church, the first ever non-Greek to be the president of St. Nicholas here on Kentucky Avenue, Atlantic City. And I had so many really interesting conversations, and I learned how to speak Greek, but I really learned how to understand Greek because I knew that they were talking about me. And that was also rewarding from a perspective of my 2 sons were baptized Greek Orthodox in that church on Kentucky Avenue. And that church has been there for 90 years, and I was the president of the church at the 75th anniversary, and I got the president of Drexel, who was Greek, to come to Atlantic City and speak about the importance of the Greek community in Atlantic City. And my children were raised in that church, and I've watched a lot of people go through that church. The second generation all become doctors, lawyers, police officers, professors, accountants, elected officials, and none of their parents had any education, generally past like 6th or 7th grade. So it's pretty amazing to be part of that community. Then I fast forward to being a young criminal defense lawyer here in Atlantic County. And I showed up at the Egg Harbor Township Municipal Court, and the room where you would meet the prosecutor was in the basement of the courthouse. And I walk down those steps, and I walk into the room, and I look around, and I was the only non-white male Jewish attorney in the room. And they all knew each other, and they all had relationships. And there was nobody talking to me. And in fact, I got a couple dirty looks because what was later explained to me is I was a threat because I was taking business off the street, and they kind of had a little clique where they were getting all the work, and like, who's this guy? Where's he from? Why is he here? And within a year, one of the gentleman that was in that room actually called my brother, who was also an attorney, first generation educated, and he later became president of the bar, and he called up my brother, my nickname's Wheels, and he goes, "Hey, Turk," he goes, "I've seen Wheels in court all the time." He goes, "I got to tell you, man, he's a mensch." So my brother tells me, and I don't know at the time, I don't know what a mensch is, and I said, "Did he call me a mensch?" Because at the time I was actually much heavier, and he goes, "No, a mensch." He goes, "It means you're a good guy." And that took about a year to break down that barrier. And the reason why I tell those stories is from a personal standpoint, when I got to the position that I'm in today, it's very easy for me to say yes when people bring issues, initiatives, and programs because I internalize it. I internalize the way that my parents were treated in Brigantine because my parents were outsiders in Brigantine. My parents were not members of the Republican Club. They didn't go to the yacht club. And in fact, my dad drove a truck and was probably looked upon poorly. But I was given the opportunity to be raised by people who really cared about the community, and they cared about our family. And our door was always open, and people were invited into our house. And it was pretty amazing. I had aunts, uncles, grandparents all live with us, all die with us. And even some of my dad's friends after a divorce lived in my room, and I slept on the couch. And that's about helping people. And I was blessed to be raised by 2 people that really cared. So why do I share those stories? I am super motivated to make an impact in our community, and I'm even more motivated to give people who really care the opportunity to do things. And when events like this are organized, it makes me think like, wow, we've seen so many stereotypes and so many outcomes and so many assumptions that can shape how things happen. And what we're doing in the prosecutor's office to make sure that that doesn't happen, that there's one standard, one rule of law that's applicable to everyone, regardless of who they are, where they're from, who they're friends with, what political party they're in, what color their skin is, what language they speak. There's one standard. So we are committed to not only recognizing and addressing the fact that bias exists in our society even today, which is really sad, but that not only are we going to change the laws and enforce the laws, but our goal is to change the hearts and minds of people that are watching what we're doing every day. We are absolutely committed to this. I've been blessed with such a great group of people around me who really care. And it started with our initial director of community outreach, Ray Royster, is here in the back. Ray, please raise your hand. Ray imparted wisdom to me. Ray got really real with me, if that's a proper term. He got really real with me very early on in our administration to explain, like, yo, man, this isn't how it goes, and this is what we need to do. And I listened to Ray, and one of the things he kept saying is we need to do more. And he's 100% correct. And we've made a lot of strides with Ray's help and Siobhan and Rick's help. We've created training programs involving people with special needs and autism, and we have Erin from the special services school district here. And we're training every police officer in Atlantic County on how to interact with those with special needs. And the other day, we had a gentleman with autism come to the office and do a training. He trained every detective in our office on how to interact with someone with autism. And it was an amazing event because we were actually not only given information, but blown away by the level of perception of law enforcement and the level of input you can take from a person that you would never imagine would have an impact. So we really need to have to bridge the gap, right, between marginal communities like those with special needs, like those of different color of skin, or speak a different language, and make them feel that they're going to get the same treatment that everyone else is going to get when they interact with the criminal justice system. But trust is not given, it's earned, and it's earned based on how you treat people. And I've used the term quite often, radical transparency, and we pride ourselves on telling the truth, good, bad, and indifferent. If we're right, we're right. If we're wrong, you have to come forward and be credible and let people know this is what exactly happened and deal only in facts. And that's what we do. I have to tell you, one of the things that coming from the outside and not being law enforcement, I was a municipal prosecutor, but it's nowhere near the same. My eyes have been opened wide by the challenges that law enforcement face today. And one of the things that we really need to do is come together to understand the perception from both sides. And to do that, people actually have to have direct and frank conversations. And my challenge to everybody in this room, law enforcement, non-law enforcement, is take a really hard look at how you interact not only with each other, but the people that are watching you, right? So I have twin boys that are 15 years old, and I conduct myself in a certain way because I know they're watching every single word and every single thing that I do, from the car to the cell phone to the house to how I drive to who's in my life and who's not in my life. So the challenge to all of you is be aware that everyone's watching, right? And people are going to have perceptions of what you are, who you talk to, and how you talk to people. And treating people with dignity and respect goes so far, and that consideration makes such a difference. And I think we're going to hear from a lot of people on this panel today that that's all they're asking for, right, is to be treated with dignity and respect. One of the final thoughts that I want to share with all of you is We've been placed in a position of trust. Prosecutor's office, law enforcement, elected officials, clergy. We have to deliver. The world has never been more divided, ever. We just had a ceremony out at the courthouse the other day, in commemoration of 9/11, and I referenced what it was like to be at an Eagles game after 9/11, and the whole stadium rising and chanting USA. We need to get back there, and events like this is going to get us back there because we're going to listen to each other and show each other courtesy and respect and cheer for one another. And that's really where we need to be. And this event is to address that. So I thank all of you for coming. I thank you for your consideration. I thank you for your time. And I thank you for your partnership. There's a lot of familiar faces in this room, and I really appreciate all you being here. Thank you. Enjoy the show.
Thank you so much. The prosecutor, he used a phrase that really struck me, and that was common ground. I think as humans, we tend to gravitate towards people who are like us, have the same backgrounds and values, and quite honestly, it's only natural. But only through having those conversations, which may be a little scary because it's going into the land of the unfamiliar, are we going to be able to actually bridge the gap and break down those barriers. So thank you so much, Prosecutor Reynolds. Next, I would like to welcome to the stage a representative of the Division on Civil Rights. And this is a division that is committed wholly to fighting and combating bias and hate. So I welcome to the stage the representative, Taylor Thomas.
I just want to thank Siobhan and, everyone for having me here today. I just wanted to give a brief overview of our division for those who don't know, so that you can utilize this information in the future for yourself or the individuals that you interact with. Like Siobhan said, my name's Taylor Thomas. I'm a community relations specialist with the Community Relations Unit in the Division on Civil Rights. We are the state agency tasked with protecting civil rights for New Jerseyans. That includes all protected classes, including race, religion, disability, gender, as well as many more, in places of public accommodation, employment, and housing. We do that by protecting under 3 different laws. Our law against discrimination is our broadest law, and that's where you'll see those protections in housing, employment, and public accommodation. We also have our Fair Chance in Housing Act, which is our newest law that protects individuals with criminal histories in their background and their search for housing. So now there's different look-back periods for different degrees of crimes, and other crimes that have been expunged are not supposed to be used in the search, like background checks for when individuals are looking for housing. So therefore, if you or someone you know has felt like they've been biased, discriminated, or harassed against, they would go to NJ Bias, which is the state agency system that you'd go to report this incident, and we would investigate that on your behalf. Other than that, I'm here to present a wonderful individual, which I learned more about yesterday after being at the Attorney General's Award. Heard great things about him, about how he is always here to answer the call. But other than that, Chief Weldon Powell is the Chief of Detectives of the Division of Criminal Justice. He joined the Division of Criminal Justice in August of 1998. During his 26 years within the division, Chief Powell served on the Attorney General's Shooting Response Team and the High Risk Entry Team. Prior to assuming his role as chief, he served as the Deputy Chief of Specialized Crime Bureau. He maintained supervision of 200 detectives assigned to all division offices, bureaus, and units who conduct investigations into criminal activities within the 21 counties of the state of New Jersey. Chief Weldon Powell, thank you.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction. I thank the Atlantic County Prosecutor's Office and Atlantic County Prosecutor and Siobhan for hosting this event, as well as Stockton. And I greet you on behalf of the Office of Attorney General, who couldn't be here today. I promised to be brief. When they said, you're speaking for about 10 minutes, and I said, I can't speak for 10 minutes. I need 20. No, but on a more serious note, I just want to cover 3 quick things and then get out of your way because I'm really anxious to get into the program. I want to do the why, how, and why. Why are we meeting today? Why are we meeting today? Sometimes this becomes routine and we think of it as a routine of we're just having this routine meeting. No, it's more important than that. We can't afford to meet each other after a catastrophic event or when something is kicking off. We have to open up the lines of cooperation and communication now. So these meetings are imperative, they're important. It's important that we meet. How do we remove bias? And how do we remove bias from our, say, criminal justice system and bias from our community? Well, we do it with a plan. And, you know, we at the Attorney General's office, we call them guardrails. The police officers would call them directives. But, you know, we like issuing directives and guardrails to make sure our criminal justice system is free of bias. And we do it through training. We do it through other means. And I just want to give you a quick story about when I realized the training was working. A while back, my son was a student in Camden County College, and he was a photography major. And he grabbed his camera and he said, "Dad, I'm going out to the park to take pictures. I have to get some pictures of nature." And it was about maybe 4 or 5 on a fall evening. It was getting dark. And then he calls me, and I get that dreaded call. And he says, "Dad, hey, I'm out here, and the car won't start." And I said, "Well, where are you? Tell me where you are." And he said, "I'm by School 6. We in Winslow Township refer to our schools by numbers. So I'm like, School 6, very rural out there. There's a lot of woods out there. And I'm driving, and I can't find him. And I say, "I can't find you." In my mind and in my heart, I'm like, I hope he didn't pull the car off into the woods and he's parked down there, because I do know sometimes the police frequent down there and they may think he's up to no good. So I said, "Where are you?" He said, "Well, I pulled the car off into the woods." So my heart starts beating. And then when I get there, there's a police car behind him. So my heart is pounding right now. It's pounding through my chest. And I'm like, I get out the car, and the officer gets out and he walks towards me. And I'm thinking maybe, you know, he's got him in handcuffs, or maybe he's searching the car for my history, or, you know. But he's not. And he walks up to me and he says, "I think it's the battery." That's when I knew our training in New Jersey was working. Our de-escalation training was working. Being more of a service-oriented type profession. So that's when I knew it was working. So when I say training, to the members of the public, we just don't go through the motions of training. We really are committed to that, the police officers you see sitting in the back of the room. The other how we combat bias in the public is through a plan. And that plan is what we call our bias investigative standards. These standards allow us to have a uniform approach to how we combat bias from one end of the state to the other. So what we're doing in Cape May County, police officers are doing up in Sussex County. We're reporting bias incidents. They're investigating these incidents the same way. Now, to our officers in the back who use the EUCR system and report these minor bias incidents to us, and they think maybe, you in the public maybe think it goes into a black hole, it doesn't. We look at every single bias incident. Why do we do that? Because we want to see things before they happen. We want to make sure that we're doing our job. See, when we know we're doing our job, there's no headlines. That's the best barometer of we're doing our job. We can't wait for something small to escalate into something big. So today, I'm excited about this conference. I'm excited about hearing from you guys, and I'm happy to be a part of this. Thank you once again, and God bless.
Thank you so much, Chief Powell. We are so honored to have you here today to share those words. And you're absolutely correct. We need to have these conversations before something deleterious happens, before something negative happens. It's important to have these right now during those blue sky days, as it were. And also, thank you so much to Taylor. Division on Civil Rights is fantastic. We really appreciate the work that you all do. And It's very important because not all bias incidents rise to the level of bias crimes. So the resources that they provide are incredibly significant. So after all of the panels, Taylor will be outside with resources for the Division on Civil Rights. So thank you so much, Taylor. And next, I would like to welcome panel 1 to the stage. If you see your name here, please make your way. Thank you. All good. All right, so thank you so much to our panelists for being here today. Our first panel, panel 1, will be about the Atlantic County Safe Place Initiative. So this is a law enforcement initiative that our county launched a few months ago, and it has been a long time in the making. Our detective and law enforcement LGBTQIA plus liaison for Atlantic County, Karen Campanelli, put so much work and heart and soul into this, and we thank her and support for people like Judah Dorrington for supporting this program. So first, Karen, I'm going to start off with you. Could you discuss your role at the prosecutor's office and what it means to be an LGBTQIA plus liaison?
Absolutely. Good morning.
Good morning.
I am a detective with the county prosecutor's office. I am currently in sex crimes and child abuse, and about 2 years ago, I went to a leadership training in which there was a presentation by the state LGBTQ law enforcement liaison group. So that was my first experience learning about that group and learning that South Jersey was not well represented. There was only one other law enforcement agency at that time from South Jersey that was part of that group, so it became very important to me that we immediately get involved in it, and I came back to the office and fortunately had a lot of support from Prosecutor Reynolds and Chief Snyder and everybody involved. So I immediately signed up. My first question was, can an ally be part of the liaison group? And they said, absolutely. So I jumped in, signed up, and there are regular meetings throughout the state with all sorts of law enforcement officers who go and attend these monthly or semi-monthly meetings and just discuss different ways that we can bridge the gap between the LGBTQ community and law enforcement.
Thank you so much. That's incredible. The second I heard that we actually had a law enforcement liaison, especially in South Jersey, because we tend to be a little bit behind with certain things. I was so happy. I was so happy to be a part of Atlantic County. And I was also very happy when you introduced the idea of Safe Place to me and educated me on that. Could you talk a little bit about what the Safe Place initiative is, the history behind it, and what its mission is?
Absolutely. So the Safe Place program is a branded program through Seattle PD. And what they had discovered is just that there needed to be a visual symbol in the community that let people know that law enforcement really cared about the LGBTQ community, but also just hate crimes and different marginalized communities in general. So what they had done, and this is just a sample of our particular sticker, is it has a law enforcement badge on it, at least recognized as a law enforcement badge. It has the rainbow sticker, and it just asks that local businesses and organizations in the community display this sticker, and what it just asks is that you report hate crimes. And it lets people know, it's a visual symbol that represents that that business or organization wants you to feel safe there, and that if there is a problem or you need somewhere that you can wait or just need a place to walk into, that that place is welcome and open to that. They will either assist you in calling 911, or they will call 911 for you, or just allow you to wait there. It's not asking the organization to get involved in any other way. It's just a safe place to wait, and it's so that they know law enforcement also wants to be called. Because unfortunately in New Jersey, and just the whole world in general, there's a long history of the LGBTQ plus community and members of all sorts of minority groups that didn't feel that law enforcement wanted to be bothered with their problems. And we want to make it abundantly clear that that is not the case. We do care, we will come.
Absolutely. And I think it's important to have that symbol just to let people know that they are welcome. And just for clarification purposes, because I see the decal, I see that there is a rainbow, and from what I understand, this is more a symbol of unity, and anyone who needs help is able to seek it in a safe place.
Correct, and that's the reason it is not the updated pride flag specifically. The rainbow itself has become a symbol of diversity and inclusion in general, and that's why it's not specific just to LGBTQ community. However, that was the initial driving force behind the program. However, now it's really become a symbol of anybody of any sort of diversity looking for help.
Wonderful.
And inclusion.
And inclusion. And we actually have our first business owner who signed up for the ACPO Safe Place initiative, Linda Cashan. Thank you so much for being here today. So you own Casciano's Coffee Shop, which is delicious. You have some delicious coffee and confections, and this is in Hamilton, New Jersey. So what drew you to registering?
Well, I did not know a thing about it, but when I received an email from Karen first, I thought, wow, this is so well, she's just so passionate and so interested in me, paying attention to this. I had to pay attention because her email was just that personal. And then I heard from you, Siobhan, and I said, oh my goodness, these people really are just professional, yet so passionate. And it just drew me in to understand it and feel more knowledgeable about it. And when they said that they were looking for a business to be the first and set the motion going, especially in my community, of course, as a coffee shop, I felt that there wasn't really a more important place to show this safety factor than a coffee shop, because that was really my goal in opening my business 17 years ago, was to have a place that my community felt comfortable in coming, felt happy there, they could study, they could have their first date, they could, just banter with the employees there and just enjoy their experience. So obviously, I want everyone to feel that way. And over the years, I have been an employer of people who are of, diverse sexual orientation, gender identity. It all became so much more important to me because it now is part of my community, not only my employees, but also my customers. So when you feel so caring about your customers, which we all do at Casciano, you would never want them to feel unsafe or biased against in any way. So we are proud to have, the shield on our door that anyone can come in and take their time, help us call the police, which of course our police department is run by a fabulous chief himself who cares deeply about his community and all parts of his community. So I know that if a call comes from Casciano regarding any kind of a bias or hate crime, that they will respond immediately, and these people will feel safe, anyone in my shop.
Thank you so much, and thank you for your kind words. I can
It's
feel...
so true. And then when you came...
I feel the passion that you have for public safety and for your customers to create an environment and space where everyone feels safe,
right.
Which is sometimes hard to come by. I've had conversations with Karen in the past when I'm in certain towns that I'm not familiar with, and I may see a symbol like that. Even though I'm an ally, it does make me feel as if I am going to be accepted. So it's so important to have that symbol for anyone who enters your shop.
It is.
And your work and your passion is not anything new, because I know that you're also very involved with the community. Can you talk a little bit about the work that you do?
Well, the main reason that I started my business 17 years ago, the reason I bought the building 18 years ago, is because I've been involved in our Main Street Hamilton program, which is an organization that revitalizes your downtown. So we don't pay attention to our whole town. We're very select. We pay attention to our downtown. And I've been involved in that for, well, since 1993, I guess, what's that, 28 years, what is it? And so that program has been so important to making Hamilton be more welcoming and more interesting to people that come and visit us, that I just felt that I know so many people in Hamilton because of that.
Yeah.
And I just feel like our coffee shop is a place where people take advantage of all the things that are going on downtown. It's a place to find out new things. It's a place to meet new people. I met Nick, of course, Karen is a business owner in Hamilton, and so there's just a place where you just come together and share your knowledge about the community and decide what projects need to be worked on, and in this case, an initiative that wasn't here yet in Hamilton, and I'm glad that other businesses are now signing up, if I'm correct.
Yes,
right?
yes.
So it's just obviously an outcome of being a part of a community that you care about to go to this level.
Absolutely, and we are so thankful to have community leaders like you who promote those communal spaces where people can meet and people can feel safe. And community work is also a passion of Nick here. Could you talk a little bit about what your role is at Stockton and the involvement in the community that it requires?
Absolutely. So I work very closely with our director at Stockton University's Hamilton campus, and we put together annually a lot of programs that bring in the community. For years, we didn't have dedicated academic programs at our site, and so we kind of shifted our model to really bring in the community and engage the community. And so we do various programs like the MLK Day of Service. We do community programs monthly, like film screenings and special events, art receptions. And we really have gotten involved in a way that people have come to know us almost as a community center on top of all of our academic work now. So we really have, and that's how I met Linda. So.
That's amazing.
Plus, he likes coffee.
I do.
And the
And sweets.
If I were closer, I would be there all the time, truly. Thank you so much for the work that you do, Nick. Obviously, community outreach is also quite significant to me as well.
Yeah.
But outside of your professional role, you're also a part of Hamilton Pride as well.
Yeah, so there's a great organization that I am a part of called Hamilton Pride. And what we do is we seek to uplift and educate the general community about the LGBTQ plus community. We have various programs throughout the year, so on top of planning programs for Kramer Hall, I'm also planning programs for Hamilton Pride, and I work very closely with our president, Max Rodeo, on we put together about 25 different kinds of public events, which I've also been able to use my position at Stockton to host a space for some of these events. Right now we have a museum exhibition called Drag is Not a Crime that is running through the end of September, and that seeks to celebrate the diversity of the queer community in southern New Jersey. It highlights the history of the kind of rise to, it seeks to highlight the prominence of different queer things in Atlantic City on top of the outreach that we are now doing in Hamilton. And it's been a great partnership with the town, with the community, but we do different things like that. But the organization was founded during the rise of what appears to be kind of a swing in the opposite direction of support for the LGBTQ community. We saw there was a lot of hatred and a lot of fear happening across the nation, and we really wanted to create something local that would celebrate the community, bring people of all backgrounds in, and really drive, understanding and acceptance and bridging the gap there.
You all do absolutely fantastic work, and being a member of Hamilton Pride, being committed to uplifting, elevating, and celebrating voices of LGBTQ people. What do you think this symbol can provide? What does it mean to you being a part of Hamilton Pride in the community?
Absolutely. So it's, having that symbol on our door, do you want to show it again? But it reminds people of all backgrounds and all walks of life that there are safe spaces that they can go to when they're in an emergency, if they're in a crisis, or if they just need a place to come in and sit down and have a drink of water, catch their breath. I feel like something like this is incredibly crucial in bridging any divides that are happening right now, because it shows that there are locations and places that support and want to protect people of all backgrounds.
Thank you so much, Nick. It really is important to have those spaces, and I think that a place of refuge that a lot of people sometimes forget about are places of worship. Today is the first day that I'm officially meeting Pastor Hunter, but I came across your church. They had a kiosk at Mays Landing Pride this past June, and I was blown away to see a place of worship being so accepting and celebrating different voices. So I immediately wanted to reach out, with you being the pastor of St. John's United Church of Christ in Egg Harbor City, which is a city that has a special place in my heart as well. So I just wanted to know a little bit more about your church's philosophy, how you all got involved in that kind of outreach.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm proud to say that St. John's was the first church to participate in the Mays Landing Pride. So as soon as Miko Lucinde organized it, we reached right out because we knew it was important to have a presence at that and to witness in that way. St. John's, as being part of the United Church of Christ, we tend to take a very open philosophy with regard to a lot of things. And one is that we don't sort of want to bind the conscience of any of our members. So, we don't require creeds, and we tend to emphasize more of our deeds over sort of what you have to believe to be a member and to be a part of it. And St. John's in particular, we participate in a larger designation within the United Church of Christ called being open and affirming. And so part of our tradition is that we believe firmly in the idea of making covenants with the community, covenants with our Creator, these sort of sacred agreements that bind us together as we live in community, but allow freedom of our thought and freedom of our own spiritual journey. And one of those covenants we made was our open and affirming covenant, which means that as a church community as a whole, we've made a commitment to standing in solidarity with our LGBTQIA sisters and brothers and family, and we've made a commitment to being a place of true inclusion and welcome. And just last Sunday, I preached on the letter of James, and part of that letter is faith without works is dead. And we see our sort of being present at prides. We had a vigil after the Colorado, I think it was the Colorado shooting at the nightclub, brought the LGBTQIA community together to just support each other and have a ritual moment of connection. We see that as putting our faith into action, because if we're being honest, I don't think churches are often seen as the places of safety and welcome that they should be to all people in the community. I remember when I was at that Pride, a young person came up to me and they were in tears, and they said, "I didn't think you guys liked us, and I'm just happy that you're here." And they meant churches. They didn't think churches could be those places where they're loved and welcomed. And we do it sort of in light of our faith, because we think our faith calls us to be welcoming and loving and to honor the worth and dignity of every person, not in spite of our faith.
You all have an incredible philosophy. It truly warms my heart, because places of worship should be places of safety and refuge and testament to loving thy neighbor and accepting. So I am so honored to have you as a part of the Safe Place Initiative. And I thank you so much for being willing to display that decal on the door. And Karen, the decal, we're really just getting started with this initiative, but just in your opinion, where do you think this can go? Not for the Safe Place Initiative, but for the interaction between law enforcement and the LGBTQ community.
Yeah, so Safe Place is that's just our first step. That is just one thing to open that door, open up the conversations. This has been our kind of invitation to the community of, hey, this is something that we're working on. We've had amazing conversations. I mean, just Siobhan and I have talked to so many different community members about what's needed. I mean, we've had amazing conversations with Judah. He said, this is just step one. This is just, hey, this is something we care about. And now it allows for open dialogue as to what's next. And I don't necessarily have the answer as to what's next other than there will be more. And it just allows this conversation to continue. What's needed? What else can law enforcement do better on to help serve these communities? Specifically the LGBTQ community, but again, everyone of diversity, because every person has had a different upbringing. Not everybody has grown up feeling like if you see a law enforcement officer or a cop that's a safe person to go to. And my hope is that we get to that point where you do feel, regardless of your background, that our New Jersey law enforcement, especially in Atlantic County, we want to be there for you. We want you to come to us when you need help, and think this is just step one.
Absolutely. It's just the beginning, and I'm very, very proud to work at a law enforcement agency where there are detectives as passionate as you are. And I'm so excited to see where this is going to go. So thank you so much to panel one. I really appreciate your participation today, and hopefully we can continue to collaborate together.
Thank you.
Okay, while our panel is joining us, I'd like to say good morning. My name is Rick McKelvey. Our next panel, which is joining us now, is going to focus on some of the unique challenges facing religious groups and the importance for law enforcement to build good relationships with those groups in one-on-one capacity and among themselves in the community, stressing communication and teamwork across the faiths, and to help strengthen security for houses of worship, which we also know are often targets of violence, which is a crime, and harassment, which would also be a crime. But also, religious groups as well as other groups are targets of discrimination, which is not a crime. And so I'd like to echo Siobhan's statements and commend to all the law enforcement in the room the utility of knowing, understanding what DCR, Division of Civil Rights, has to offer. Because there's a really big difference, I think, and I've found as a legal advisor sometimes, in between an aggrieved person who's been the victim of discrimination walking into a police department and a department saying, I can't do anything for you because a crime wasn't committed, goodbye. Versus, while this may not be a crime, here's a resource for you. Here's a place you can go, and here's a state agency who is willing to help. There's a really big difference. Your average person doesn't think a lot about the distinction between a crime and an act of discrimination. But we know, law enforcement knows, and this is one way that I think you'd be able to provide some help to people who come to the department when their issues are just short of chargeable crimes. So I'd commend you to those resources, even if it's just referring them to njbias.com. Happy to start our next panel and introduce our panelists. First, from my direct left, we have Jacob Sless. Jacob is a Deputy Public Defender and Supervisor of the Shore Region for the Office of Parental Representation. He's also the co-chair of the Jewish Community Relations Council. To his left, we welcome Imam Amin Muhammad. He is the Imam of the Masjid Muhammad Mosque in Atlantic City and a leader of the Bridge of Faith organization. We have Detective Courtney Milana from the Atlantic County Prosecutor's Office. She is currently assigned to the Intelligence and Homeland Security Unit, where she focuses on, among other things, security and preparedness for houses of worship. And then finally, we have Pastor Lou Strigalo, who you met earlier. He's the chaplain for the Atlantic County Prosecutor's Office and also serves with the New Jersey State Police and leads the Church by the Bay in Galloway. So would you please welcome our panel. I'll stay up here. I'd like to start with Imam Amin. Sir, would you please tell us first a little bit about your masjid, your congregation, and how it relates to the Muslim community in Atlantic County?
In the name of God, the Beneficent, the Merciful, may peace and blessings be upon the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his family and companions. Masjid Muhammad is a landmark in Atlantic City and in South Jersey. In fact, it is the oldest Islamic community mosque in South Jersey. We were established in 1954. So we have in Atlantic City 70 years of actual on-the-ground service. And I am the fourth imam in that legacy, and I've been in my position for 15 years. It's one of the most diverse Muslim communities in the area, and definitely in Atlantic City.
And Imam, in your leadership in Masjid Muhammad, you've also become involved in an organization called Bridge of Faith, is that right?
Yes.
Can you tell us what that is?
Bridge of Faith is a cooperative effort between various faith-based organizations and religious facilities, mainly among the Jewish community, the Christian community, and the Muslim community. It was started by one of the senior rabbis in the area, Rabbi Aaron Krause, may God protect him. He was a leader in bringing the faith-based community together in Atlantic County, and him, along with the current president, Councilman Kaleem Shabazz, were very instrumental in bringing all the faith-based communities together on a monthly basis to engage in community affairs and cooperation with law enforcement, with civil activities, with educators. Every facet of the community, the Bridge of Faith brings a religious component to our collective cooperation.
What do you think the value is of bringing different religions and different pastors and organizations together for these monthly communications?
I think it sets a safe space for us to cooperate in our common shared aspect of humanity. I think this is so important that we have spaces and groups that allow for us to interact in our shared benefits and removed our collective harm. So if I would look at it that way, it's important that we could come together, find our collective benefit, cooperate in that, discover those things that are harmful for all of us, and work together to alleviate that situation.
And you've also been kind enough to invite our office to the proceedings. What do you think the value is of having law enforcement at Bridge of Faith?
I can speak of it for two levels, if I may. Number one, from the collective level as a community, this is something that we've been engaging in for years. Not only with the prosecutor's office, quarterly, and we've been lagging lately, but quarterly, we would have a collective meeting with all levels of government, from the federal level, the state level, the county level, the local level, even the city, where we would come together. We've held them mostly at Masjid Muhammad, where you would have law enforcement all around the country and the state, and even on the local level, to figure out how can we cooperate in a way to keep us all safe. And what are the access points to ensure that that is facilitated with ease? So when it's a good time, we don't have to get ready, we're already ready. When the bad time comes, we know what to do. We know who to reach, we know who to contact. That's on a collective level. On a personal level, for me, as an African-American young man who grew up in Atlantic City, I'm originally from Pitney Village. If anyone knows about Atlantic City, I'm from the real inner city. And coming up as a kid, we didn't have that kind of interaction with law enforcement. They were seen as the other enemy. And I think a lot of crime and things that exist in the inner city is a result of not having access and cooperation between law enforcement in the community. So finding a bridge to bring that together, I think, is essential.
Thank you, and you've always been such a generous host whenever you have us at the masjid, so thank you. To Mr. Sless, would you tell us please about the JCRC and what your organizations, you as a leader in it and a community member, what your concerns are as it pertains to bias, discrimination, and public safety?
Yes, of course. So the JCRC, the Jewish Community Relations Council, is basically the public relations arm of the Jewish Federation. Jewish Federation of Atlantic and Cape May counties is the funding source, and they support a lot of organizations such as Jewish Family Services, the Jewish Community Center, as well as the JCRC. So our role at JCRC is to have the cross communication and get out into the community and speak with everyone, and that is, of course, multi-generational, multi-denominational, and multiracial. Presently, I participate on the Bridge of Faith with the Imam, and that is a fabulous forum where we are able to have these respectful and meaningful conversations directly regarding what's going on in the community at a local level, at a state level, a national, and a global level, and we're creating a comfortable, safe space to discuss these difficult topics. And one of the goals of JCRC, which is parallel to Bridge of Faith, is to bring that ability into the community, to have those conversations with different audiences, whether it's different groups of Jewish audiences or Christian audiences or Muslim audiences. We want to be able to have and build these meaningful and respectful conversations. In fact, we are partnering with Stockton University through the Bridge of Faith to start bringing that into the student body and into the greater community. But the JCRC's historic and present goal has always been for public policy, social advocacy, and community outreach, and that's exactly what we do.
So besides, and once you sort of get in the room with the stakeholders that you've identified, what do you think can be done and should be done to prevent the polarization that you might see in the media or online from actually impacting our community?
So there's two responses there. First is the direct communication that I touched on earlier. We have to be able to have those conversations between us, so to take out any mystery and address the global and the national issues head on in a safe, meaningful space. That's first. Second, the perspective that I bring to JCRC, and I bring it personally and professionally in a number of capacities. It's a simple premise. It's something that I call the 3 C's. It started a few years back. I was the president of the school board in Margate, and we were trying to figure out initiatives in the best interest of the children. And we always started talking about this first C, children first. As a public defender, it began to expand to not just children, but to our clients, which in the Office of Parental Representation is families. It's mothers and fathers and grandparents who find themselves in the child welfare system subject to limits on their ability to parent, or actually action seeking to terminate their parental rights as a result of child welfare allegations. So we really developed this perspective called the client first perspective. The second C's was communication. It had to be effective communication. We had to communicate in the best interest of our children. We have to communicate effectively in the best interest of our clients as public defenders. And the third C is challenge. And I'm going to hold off on that because I got to go back to the first C for a second to where it is now. Because at a Bridge of Faith meeting, I'm sitting there listening to everyone, we're having a conversation, and I go, well, the first C is not client nor children, it's community, right? So it's community first. And so in addressing any social concern, any substance use concern, any concern in the community, that has to be the priority, and that has to come from everyone, regardless of background and regardless of present political status or global crisis in the world. It's community first. And we quickly skip into the second C, and we have to communicate effectively at our level as leadership stakeholders, and then at every level with everyone, as we've been talking about all morning. And third, challenge And challenge everything is about progress. It's about moving forward. It's about unification that may have not existed in the past, when, for example, when you were growing up in Atlantic City. So it's challenge those stereotypes and challenge those things in the past that we can look at now and say, wow, they are not successful, and move forward to progressive, successful change.
Moving on, Pastor Lou, can you describe the role of a law enforcement chaplain in general, and then specifically how you see it and how you perform that function?
Law enforcement chaplain is basically someone who brings a sense of direction based in spirituality to the department they serve. I look at it as I'm the listening post. I need to be there, I need to be present for critical incidents, but also for the day-to-day. The law enforcement professionals, as many of the people in the room know, will deal with 800 critical incidents in their career, on an average 25 to 30-year career. The average human being deals with 8. And so you either become jaded, you become oblivious to it, or you find some way to relieve the pain. By having conversation, for example, at the prosecutor's office, I try to get there for 2 hours a week just to sit in the wellness room and listen to people, whether it be the attorneys, whether it be the detectives, even the administrative staff who have to type out the trials that you put forward. It's very difficult sometimes to look at the photos, to deal with the incidents, to deal with the actual abuse of human beings that you have to deal with. So that's my role in it. Some people address it differently. We have, in some instances, ceremonial chaplains that you see at events, and that's okay. That's their role and that's their preference. I tend to try and be more critical incident, or what I'll call a working chaplain, where I'll be there where somebody needs me. And sometimes that's 2 in the morning, and I'm not very happy at 2 in the morning.
Those communications, as I understand, can be non-denominational, right, and non-specific.
They have to be. I draw my faith from the teachings and life of Christ. I do not put that forward to anybody unless they ask me for it, because I will lose all credibility if I start to proselytize faith. I have to be able to understand better. I have to be able to understand cultural and religious significance of other faiths. A good example, several years ago, Attorney General Graywall was mocked by a radio station, and I found it very offensive. They mocked his turban or his wrappings. And so I requested a meeting with him, and I had one. And we had a great conversation. He said, our problem is that we don't teach well enough about our faith. And I explained to him that my problem as a Christian was that I felt as offended by them mocking his wrappings and then understanding the 15 wrappings and the prayers that go with them. I felt as offended as if somebody defaces a synagogue, defaces a mosque, or defaces a crucifix or a cross. And we came to an understanding, but it required conversation, because I don't know every denomination. I don't know every flavor of religion. I don't understand them all, nor do I claim to. But I'm willing to listen. And I think that's what a chaplain really needs to do, is listen.
I think we're very lucky in this county that it seems that most of the religious leaders that we've come across are also the most tolerant and have the best relationships with other leaders, and I'd include Bishop Hargrove in that as well. Thank you. Now, Detective Milana, could you talk about your assignment at the prosecutor's office and how it relates to aiding and protecting places of worship?
Absolutely. So I'm assigned to our Intelligence and Department of Homeland Security unit at the prosecutor's office. The side that deals with Department of Homeland Security, I work alongside Agent Joe McFadden. He's been doing this for very many years and is an excellent resource of information. We conduct security assessments on houses of worship. We also do schools and nonprofit organizations, but we do a lot of houses of worship. And basically, a house of worship can contact us and we will come out and assess your structure and give you some really good feedback and information how to make that a little bit more safe. We have some low cost, no cost options for consideration that we will provide, but then there are obviously some more expensive ticket items that could come with that. But the state and the federal government give 2 grants a year that nonprofits can apply for to help reimburse those costs and things for you.
So there's grants available, and the assessment that your office does is a requirement to apply for that grant. Is that right?
It is. An assessment is good regardless. But yes, it is a requirement, and we would do an assessment, even if it wasn't involving the grant, but it is a requirement in applying for those grants.
And what are the 2 types of security measures that the grant could possibly pay for?
So they pay for target hardening, which could be security cameras, maybe your doors need to be better reinforced, or there's other things regarding that. There's a huge list of things that could, be allowed in the target hardening section. The other part of the grant is for security personnel. So they'll allot you, I think it's up to $20,000 for you to hire a actual security personnel and pay for that.
What other sort of work does your unit do in instructing and aiding houses of worship?
So we've offered trainings in the past. Usually it's upon request. We have done active shooter trainings for houses of worship. We've helped with emergency action ready plans, things of that nature. We work alongside the New Jersey Department of Homeland Security and CISA, and they have a ton of training that we also leverage, to help provide any of that. We've been successful. I know that sometimes a house of worship might ask for the training, but they have a big place and they're willing to invite other houses of worship so we could reach, a lot more people, and it's been very successful in the past.
Well, I have many more questions, but in the interest of time, we're going to move on to the next panel. But could we please thank all our panelists for their work here and outside? Thank you. Okay, we're going to take a 5-minute break, so please stand, get yourself a refreshment, and we'll see you back in 5 minutes. Thank you.
All right, folks, we are going to go ahead and get started with our 3rd panel. I am welcoming Aristelcy Bermudez, Jose Sanchez, Sergeant Kevin Law, and Milton Chowdhury here today. We will be discussing the immigrant population in terms of breaking bias and discrimination in criminal justice. So starting with you, Aristelcy, you are a victim witness advocate for the Atlantic County Prosecutor's Office. Can you talk a little bit about what your role entails?
Yes, so I am a victim witness advocate. I am the liaison between the victims, the assistant prosecutors, and the detectives. I am able to provide them with the needed resources for the victims that are in crisis, and able to explain to them, help them navigate the criminal justice process, and just be there for support in when they need to attend court, especially in homicide cases or aggravated sexual assault cases and stuff like that.
Your job is so important, and a lot of people don't even know that victim witness advocates exist, quite honestly. Our system, our criminal justice system, is very defendant focused, and which is very important as well, but sometimes it leaves the victims with really nowhere to go. And their voices aren't really heard and aren't really elevated. So what you do is incredible. In addition to being a victim witness advocate, you're a bilingual victim witness advocate. So can you talk about what that entails in terms of the clientele that you work with?
Yes, so I do see a high population of Spanish-speaking So being able to connect with the Spanish-speaking population, provide all those resources to them, knowing so they know as well that those resources are available, because sometimes they don't know what is available as a victim of a crime. And help with those Spanish translations. When they receive court letters, they don't know what it says sometimes. So having that open communication with me, I'm able to again guide them throughout the criminal justice process and know that so they know that they're supported by our office.
Fantastic. And when you first meet these victims, are there obstacles that you run into?
Yes, so of course, first is the language barrier. So being able to break that barrier, speaking the language, a lot of the times as well, sometimes the country that they come from, they have a different perception of law enforcement. So being able to explain to them the criminal justice process, knowing that they're not in trouble, that's also another obstacle, that they believe that they're in trouble, or because they're a victim of a crime. For undocumented immigrants, they think that, they might get deported if they report or reach out to our office. But after speaking to them, and helping them understand that we are here for them, regardless of immigration status, they have that, I can break those barriers down, and they're able to communicate with our office and report and have that connection with law enforcement.
That's incredible. The fact that you're able to culturally connect and connect through language to make them feel more comfortable and to explain the way that our system actually works versus maybe their perception of law enforcement is so incredible. And you spoke about resources. What kind of resources, important resources, would you connect the victims with?
Yes, so we have the Victims of Crime Compensation, which we can also assist in completing with them. Sometimes, if victim survivors in homicide cases, that's the least of, expenses. So Victims of Crime Compensation helps with funeral expenses, medical bills. So we are able to assist them in that. We also have the U visa, which is for undocumented immigrants. If they were a victim of a crime and have been affected, physically or mentally, receive physical, mental abuse as a result of being a victim, and they help in the prosecution of the case. After the case is closed, they can apply for a U visa.
I think that U visa is incredible. A lot of people don't know about it. And then, so just to clarify, if a victim is undocumented and they meet the eligibility requirements, which are reviewed by an attorney at our office, then potentially, if they're cooperative throughout the entire investigation, they may actually get to receive documentation.
Yes, so after the case is closed and they have been cooperative with us and helping again in the prosecution of the case, if it goes to trial, testifying, once a case is closed, they can apply for a U visa, and that can help them.
An amazing resource. And someone else who connects immigrants, refugees, and those seeking asylum with resources is Jose Sanchez. I know that you wear a lot of hats working with Catholic Charities. Can you talk about, oh my goodness, that's a lot. Can you talk about your 7 roles?
My name is Jose Sanchez. I work for Catholic Charities as the Director of Community Services for the immigration program, but they'll slide in other people that are just coming in for services, and we'll do that. We'll be happy to do that. So part of my role as the Director of Community Services is in the refugee program. So there's a couple of different roles that I have within that program. So we do refugee resettlement, which is actually people that are going through the process of being refugees, particularly, let's say, from Afghanistan 3 years ago. We ended up resettling, it was 16 Afghans in Atlantic City. And there's only one living here now, but the other one's moved out, still in the Diocese of Camden. So they're there, and they all have been granted asylum, and they're happy. So then the other ones are that are people that are coming through the border from Brownsville, Texas, various individuals, so not just Latino ones. So there we have people from Nicaragua, we have people from Colombia, we have people from Peru, Africa. We have a couple of people that came from Uganda, and then the Republic of the Congo, a number of families that came from there, working on seeking asylum, and then we're helping them out with sometimes with housing, sometimes with social services if they qualify. There's a lot of miscommunication regarding that people are coming and taking our social service dollars. The United States government sticks their finger in a lot of things, and then when they mess it up, people that are coming from those countries that they messed up a little bit, allow them to get some social services. So for example, people from Haiti and people from Cuba are entitled to public benefits. A lot of them don't want public benefits. A lot of them want to work. They want to come in and get a job and start taking care of their family. But what happens is that the government also makes it difficult for them to get to work because they have to get employment authorization documents. They have to start seeking asylum prior to that, and they need money to get a lawyer to help them seek asylum. And they can't work, so they can't get any money, so they stay stuck in this limbo. We help them out a little bit with some cash for lawyers that could come and do an initial interview to see if they can actually qualify or have a good story to seek asylum. So we'll do that. We'll help them with public benefits, we'll help them with Medicaid, we'll help them with social services, and so on. And if they need work and they can get it and they have employment documents, we'll make referrals to places. We have a refugee family that came from Nicaragua, and it was July 4th they came in, and the husband is already working at a meat factory a month and a half later. Wow. So, and you know, he's making $17 an hour. He's able to pay his bills, so he's a little bit happy. Yeah. Those are some of the things that I do.
Oh my goodness, that is fascinating and impactful work. And I think it's important also to educate people on the process. From the outside, I think we don't really have a window into how difficult and challenging immigration and seeking asylum really are. And you mentioned if someone has a good story, they can seek asylum. What did you mean by that?
Lawyers will say that the story is everything. So why did you leave your country? There's gangs in South America. There is one mother and son. I visited Brownsville, Texas a number of times into Catholic Charities Respite Center, which is a place where people can rest and then they can go to where they're going. We were making peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and there was a lady that came in, and then the director of the Catholic Charities said, do you know this lady? And I said, no. He said she was supposed to be going to New Jersey, where you're from, and her sponsor has stopped communicating with her, ghost to her. So he said, you should do something about that. So we talked to our executive director, brought her over, and here's her story. She fled her country because if her son didn't join a gang, they would kill him. And that was the story. And she came over, and actually she's living in Pennsauken, right next to my office. Her son is going to college, doing well. She's working whenever she can and everything, and she's doing fine. In other places, here in Atlantic City, there was one where the story was they killed my brother right in front of us because he didn't join a gang. So the whole family fled. And she said, I have pictures that I can show you. And I said, like, I don't want to see those pictures. The lawyer can take care of that. And they're working on being granted asylum as well. So the stories are there. There's lots and lots of people that come. because of wages. That's not a good story.
Yeah.
Because they're just looking for better employment or anything like that. But the United States needs these people to come to work. There's a shortage of labor and everything. But that wouldn't consist a good story for asylum.
Yes.
And then that's why we say we'll leave it to the lawyers
Right.
for them to hash it out. The Afghan population, all of them have a decent story.
Okay.
And that's because they work with the military, and if they go back, their families will be killed.
I cannot imagine what some of these stories entail. And I also find it really interesting that you're helping people coming from all over the globe. And multicultural services is especially important. Atlantic City is its own melting pot. And Milton, you're working within the multicultural services and affairs in City of Atlantic City. Can you talk about your role, what you do, and what are the multicultural services that you provide?
So my name is Milton Chowdhury, Multicultural Affairs and Services, City of Atlantic City. Under my leadership, we're able to do a holistic approach and bringing programs and services for Atlantic City residents. Atlantic City is a very diverse population where we have 33% African American, 29% Hispanic, 16% white, and 13% Asian. This is a very diverse community. The multicultural services is very important because we are building the bridge between the immigration population, LGBT community, and rest of our diverse population in town. So I believe that multicultural services is very important for the City of Atlantic City.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for the work that you do. And you work closely with many immigrants, many immigrant individuals. So what kinds of concerns have they voiced when they come to you?
So the immigrant populations are mostly concerned about their job security, the inflation, the rising cost of itemized foods and transportation. A lot of immigrants are homeowners, so the prices of maintaining homes are going up, the insurance policies are going up. They're concerned about those things. Also, I can I'll tell you one thing, that the lighting issue in Atlantic City is very important for immigrant families because a lot of them are walking to the casino, especially our female population. You know, the the different schedules for the casino. Some of the shifts over at 2 o'clock at night, 2 o'clock in the morning, and 3 o'clock in the morning. And if you're walking to or getting off the work and you're walking to your house and the lights are not good, you know, you have a problem. So the Atlantic City lightings are very improved, like last 5 to 10 years. I want to thank the City of Atlantic City Public Works, the Atlantic City Electric, and the CRDA. They're working jointly, partnerships. This is a really, they really love the lighting recently. I think the best lighting you want to see, like, you have to go to New York City. I mean, I don't know anybody in New Jersey has better lighting than Atlantic City. So.
Right.
Yep.
I think from the outside, a lot of people don't realize how important that lighting is.
Yes.
And I agree with you. Over the last few years, Atlantic City has done an incredible job at addressing those lights that are out and improving that public safety. And improving public safety is the mission of law enforcement initiatives. And we have Sergeant Kevin Law here, a part of Atlantic City Police Department. First, how did you get into law enforcement? How long have you been a law enforcement officer?
I've been a Atlantic City police officer for 17 years. Right out of high school, I joined the Army, and I like working with different groups of people and a common goal. And one of my platoon sergeants told me that I should try to be a Atlantic City or a police officer, and then I just took the test and went to a police academy and became an Atlantic City police officer. My current role right now is I work up in the chief's office for Chief Sarkos, but right before that, I was in community relations, and I dealt with a lot of kids in the school. So we would go and teach this program called LEAD, Law Enforcement Against Drugs, and then we also work with Lang Prevention Resources. We go into schools, and Texas Avenue has a large immigrant students there, and so does Sovereign Avenue. We would do a junior police academy, and we would, you know, they would get to know me for the 10 weeks, and they would say, hey, I want to do the police academy, and I would give them the application. They have to fill it out, and the parents will have to sign it, And certain students said, I would go back and said, hey, where's your application? He goes, oh, I don't want to do it anymore. I said, well, I think you'll be really good at it. Like you're a good listener, we're gonna, work you out and everything. And the teacher will pull me out after the class is over and said, well, they're really nervous that they have to sign something for the police department and they don't want to do that. And I told, the teacher, I was like, hey, just let them know that we don't do anything. This is just for our records and we're not gonna run any checks or anything on them. But some students come through and do it and some don't. We did have several students that went through that police academy, then did the police explorers, and now are police officers for Atlantic City. First generation police officers, and we're really proud of them. And we're trying to get a third one here, going through this cycle. But with the new police training commission licensing, he has to be a citizen, and so he's got to get his natural citizen paperwork, even though he's been here for over 15 years. Going through school system.
Wow. And your work is incredible. I know I've seen you at numerous community events, building trust as a law enforcement official with the youth especially is incredibly important. But you mentioned maybe some issues with those who have immigrant parents. So what other obstacles have you run into when you are addressing a public safety concern or in an interaction with someone who is either an immigrant or has an immigrant family member who may or may not be documented?
I guess it's just the culture and the language. I know Atlantic City, we speak over 20 languages, so we always will lean on other officers to help out. A lot of times it sounds like my first language is Chinese, and when you go to a Chinese household and you're a police officer, it sounds like the male is just yelling at the female, right? It's just different cultures the way it is. Like you take off your shoes when you go inside the house. These little things, I always just tell the officers when I was out on patrol, it's like, hey, this is how it is. They're not like disrespecting the thing, but this is how the cultures are different. And then they learn, and most of the time, all the officers, they kind of know.
Right.
Or you go to the mosque, you take off your shoes. Like it's like a thing that Atlantic City police officers just kind of know because we're just around it all the time. So,
I like that you brought that point up because you have to understand that there are cultural differences between different cultures, and I know that's something that you mentioned, Aristelsi, and Milton. We even spoke about that.
Yeah.
Sometimes people immediately have a bias, whether they intend to or not, when they're meeting somebody from a different culture. And I know that you can speak more to that.
Actually, sometimes with the immigrant populations, it's very diverse. Even if you come from the same country, you might have a different religion, you might have different dialogues. So one size fits all is never going to work for an immigrant. So we got to take each culture and each population, see what's going to work for them and what's not going to work for them. It's a real life story. I was trying to approach, it just happened in the front desk of the City Hall. There's a police officer, myself, and a social services. And a senior Asian lady she was getting scammed. And matter of fact, I was told her, like, you need to reach out to the prosecutor's office, but she has mental issues. She don't want to listen to nobody. And I was trying to bring out an interpreter over the phone. She's refused it. She said, I speak better languages. I speak better English. I don't need no interpreter. So sometimes even you try to help somebody, it might not be appropriate. So before I approach to anybody, I got to see if it's appropriate to that person to approach that and go by the personal knowledge you have and experience to offer anything before you do that.
Absolutely. And I imagine that it takes a lot of trial and error and a lot of conversations and communication to figure out kind of what works for each group. Because like you said, it's not always going to be a one-size-fits-all solution. And I want to keep talking to you all because immigration is such an important topic, and our country is a melting pot, and immigration is so challenging. So for those that come to this country, we want them to be comfortable. We want them to be confident. But I thank you so much for all of the work that you all do. And thank you so much for your participation today.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. So as I was saying, this panel is going to be focusing on individuals with intellectual, cognitive, and developmental disabilities who are statistically more likely to be either victims or offenders or both than other individuals. Statistics have shown that individuals with these disabilities are 4 to 10 times more likely to become a victim of a crime, and that people with intellectual disabilities currently comprise 2 to 3% of the general population, but 4 to 10% of the prison population, with an even greater number in jails and juvenile facilities. So with that in mind, ACPO has made it an effort to spend time with this population at the ARC facility, at the Special Services School, and to develop and support some of the programs that we're going to be talking about today and that the prosecutor mentioned earlier. So now I'd like to introduce our panel. Starting to my direct left is Robin Holt. She is the Director of Criminal Justice Advocacy at the ARC of New Jersey. To her left is Jennifer Catalano, who also works for ARC as a case manager, providing support to individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities who are involved in the criminal justice system. To her left is Chief Stephen Cunningham with the Linwood Police Department, who has implemented and advocated for the innovative Blue Envelope program in his town. And to his left is Lieutenant Bill Adamson, who is a superior officer at the County Prosecutor's Office. He oversees more than 25 detectives and employees in our litigation section, but has also taken on responsibility of bridging divides between law enforcement and individuals with developmental disabilities. And then finally, to his left, we have Erin Lichtenwallner. She is the Director of Instructions, Programs, and Services at the Atlantic County Special Services School District, which services students with disabilities from the ages of 3 to 21. Thank you all for coming. Erin, I'd like to start with you. Could you please tell us about your school and the individuals that it serves?
Sure. First of all, thank you so much for having me today. It's an honor to be here with so many people that are dedicated to our community. Our Special Services School District services students from 3 to 21 with severe disabilities that are unable to have success in their public schools. We do service students in Atlantic County, but also really throughout the state. We have students coming as far as Jersey City every day to our school. We range from autism to developmental disabilities, preschool, severe cognitive disabilities, and behavioral disabilities. And we've had a great partnership with the prosecutor's office, with Ray and Siobhan, helping us and helping our students. And we are excited to be here and be part of this.
Thank you, Erin. You've been a great host to us for a number of years now. And what do you find the value of that relationship may be to your students?
You know, I think it's twofold. I think there's value in it for the students, and I think there's value in it for our law enforcement, social services, and outside community members to come into our building. Every time I'm in front of an audience, I tell them to come visit us. We do have a restaurant, and we'd love to have you. And I think what's great is for our students to be able to have that exposure, especially our more social, emotional needs, the students that have some behavioral needs that a lot of them grow up in Atlantic City or Pleasantville and don't have the best experiences with law enforcement. And it's really wonderful to have officers come in, be able to have friendly conversation and take down some of those barriers for our students so that they feel safe and understand the purpose of law enforcement, supporting them and making them safe in their community.
Great. I'd like to move on to Ms. Holt now. Robin, can you talk about what ARC of New Jersey is and your role in particular as pertains to criminal justice?
Sure. Thank you guys for having us today. We're very happy to be here. Sorry, let me make sure this is up. So the ARC of New Jersey is actually the state's largest nonprofit organization that works specifically with individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities, as well as their families. So the ARC of New Jersey itself is actually an affiliate from the overarching the ARC, so the ARC of United States. And then below us, we have ARC local county chapters in not all 21 counties, but 20 counties, almost there, that serve as sort of more like boots on the ground work, residential programs, day programs, employment programs, so on and so forth. So my role as the director of the Criminal Justice Advocacy Program, I oversee obviously all operations that occur within the confines of the program, but I also oversee one of our sister programs, which is called the Sexual Violence Prevention Program, that works, as the name suggests, to prevent sexual assault, sexual offenses against individuals who have intellectual and developmental disabilities. So since starting about, actually 3 years ago this month, my team and I have really put a lot of backing and emphasis on training initiatives. We train law enforcement, we train corrections as of late, we train in universities, education system, because we really have seen the value of getting education and awareness out there regarding this very population as it relates to the criminal justice population, because as Rick conveyed, there's such an overrepresentation of these individuals in our jails, in our prisons, and in our court systems.
Thanks, Robin. Jen, can you describe your role as a case manager and take us through how you take a client through the criminal justice process?
Absolutely. So, hi everyone, happy to be here. As a case manager for the Criminal Justice Advocacy Program, I work specifically with defendants with IDD who have an active criminal charge. So basically, I act as a liaison between the client's mental health team or support coordinator team and the legal system. So I will converse with attorneys, state prosecutors, I provide technical assistance, court advocacy. One of the main things that we do once we take on a client is provide a formal letter to the court, which addresses the individual's developmental or intellectual disability and any behavioral symptomatology that goes with that. And this is not to make any excuses in any way, but just to lay the foundation of, hey, this is why this instance may have occurred.
What are some common accommodations that you may seek on behalf of your clients, either in court or even in custody or probation?
Yeah, so I would say in court is where I'm most familiar. So when it comes to accommodations, I speak with court clerks, court administrators, ADA staff if they're available. And I would say the most common accommodation that I've been requested to ask for is for the case to be called first on the docket. So what we're finding with a lot of our clients is they have a lot of sensory sensitivities. Things are overstimulating. If it's too loud, so having a lot of people in the courtroom can be very overwhelming. So allowing that client to be heard first at the start of the day before everyone comes into the courtroom has been proven to be very beneficial.
Chief Cunningham, if I can ask you to describe the Blue Envelope program and what its origins were.
Yes, and thank you for having me today. The Blue Envelope program was created, and we introduced the program back in April of 2023 during Autism Awareness Month. We identified that there wasn't many resources in place to be able to make a very stressful situation less stressful. So within the Blue Envelope program has the individuals, and I'm talking now specifically driving, right? It could be used for other things, but with this specifically driving. Within that envelope contains the driver's information, their identifiers, their credentials, and then emergency contact information, right? It has guidance on the front of it for the driver and what to expect when being stopped. Again, that's stressful for anybody. It also identifies if the individual with ASD is verbal, nonverbal, or may become nonverbal. On the other side of it, it has instructions for the officers and for what they may encounter with the individual, just to mitigate any type of negative interaction.
And to your understanding, what is unique about the ASD experience that is particularly concerning in the very typical exchange that happens at a motor vehicle stop?
That they can become nonverbal and it might be misconstrued as something else.
Right, so to my understanding, law enforcement is often trained to see things like failure to make eye contact,
yes,
failure to respond, looking elsewhere, they would see those things as potentially being suspicious, which could then heighten concerns about
yes,
safety, the presence of a weapon, and the risk would be an escalation that is not necessary.
Yes, and we don't want anything escalating. And with that, again, to identify training our officers so we don't have a negative interaction.
And so, how many towns, to your knowledge, in our county participate in Blue Envelope?
So every law enforcement agency in our county participates in it. The envelope can be picked up at any agency. And that was a collective decision that was made by the County Chiefs Association to see how are we going to achieve our desired outcome. And the desired outcome was everybody has to adopt this, everybody has to roll it out at the same time, and the envelopes have to be available at every police department.
So an adult or the family member of an ASD individual who drives can go to their local police department and obtain this envelope?
Yes.
And what can you tell us about progress that you've seen so far for the program throughout the county or even the state?
I don't have any specific examples, but feedback in the sense of people thanking us for having this resource available. Because like I said, it was lacking. There was nothing really in place. And I only started looking at this program because within our city in Linwood, we work with interactive kids, and from 2022 to present, it's every other week, we work with them doing scenario-based exercises for them to know what to expect with the police, and for us to know what to expect when an interaction like that happens.
And Lieutenant Adamson, I think you have some experience as well with the need and benefits of exposing law enforcement to individuals with developmental disabilities, is that right?
Yeah, Rick, I do.
What can you tell us about the schools program?
So a couple of years ago, Ray Royster and I came up with a program where we go into the town's special needs school classroom. A lot of times I ask the chiefs of police in that town for 2, maybe 3 officers to assist. The program, it's a 6-week program, Rick, where we go in for 1 hour each week into the special needs classroom. Whatever class that teacher's teaching that day, we just assist. So our goal was 6th, 7th, and 8th grade age students. So one day you might be making popcorn in a home ec class. The next week you might be doing language arts or math or whatever it may be that day. And the idea behind the program, it's twofold. It's for not only for the students to see officers in a friendly situation and they're here to help, they're your friend. But more importantly is for these officers to see these students in that environment, to be able to see how they can receive commands or simple directions. So when they're out on the street and they're told to, hey, show me your hands, or what is your name, you're not going to get the same response as you are a typical child. Okay, so I have an autistic son. He's 14 years old. He's getting bigger now. He's out and about on his own a lot of times. And, I can imagine if a police officer came upon him and said, hey, what's your name? At this point in my son's life, he's probably going to respond with, what's your name? That's just what he's going to say. And there's no disrespect by it. Echolalia is just repeating the last thing you heard. But to the wrong officer at the wrong time, it might seem disrespectful. So the goal with our program is for these officers to see how each kid is different, okay? And I always ask these chiefs of police before they give me their 2 or 3 officers for this program, I don't want your all-star officer. I don't want the guy that's picked for every extracurricular assignment. I want the officer that's maybe he doesn't have children this age, or maybe he's even a lot older and his kids are now moved on. Because of the autism rate here in New Jersey, it's high, man. It's when my son was diagnosed in 2010, it was 1 in 64 children. Now, this year, I want to say it's down to 1 in 34 boys.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm
1 in
correct.
44 altogether, 1 in 34 boys.
Yeah. So there's a lot.
And have you also been involved in, tell us a little bit about, or tell us which school towns have participated in this so far?
We're over a dozen now in the last couple of years. And if to the chiefs that are here, if you haven't heard from me, you're about to hear from me soon. So we don't do it in the fall because the kids are getting back into school and it's stressful enough for them. So we like to do it after Christmas. It's a 5-week program. Like I said, it's 1 hour in each week. The 6th week is a field trip to the police department. I forgot to mention that, where with most towns, the kids can walk down to the police department. Every department that's participated so far has done a great job. They'll have pizza and cupcakes, and the kids get to see the canines. They get to see where the officers do all their work. They give them tours. They're fantastic with it. So at this point, no department has said no. They've all wanted to participate. And everyone in the schools has really enjoyed the program that we're doing. So for the chiefs out there that haven't heard from us yet, you're going to be hearing from us, and we appreciate your cooperation.
And Erin, you've done some work with local departments as well, correct?
Yes. I've been lucky enough to sort of walk into a situation where some of our law enforcement representatives and educators from my district, when I first started in the district in 2023, were in the works of developing a training for officers, which came after having an officer come in and visit and really be taken aback by the population, not really feeling comfortable, not knowing what to do, in a situation that could be misinterpreted and escalate very quickly. And, once that happened, he started to look into some different situations where there were tragedies and tragic outcomes. And it's not that just the tragic outcomes for the community member and also the police officer, but for the community at large. So we have been really, we dove headfirst into this, and we spent almost a year. Ray Royster was one of the key starters with this, and we're grateful for that. And Bill works with me on this, and we have the support of 2 Atlantic City officers that helped us develop this and are now helping input this. The next month we're doing the in-services for Atlantic City. There's a lot of Atlantic City in-services. We've been to other departments, Linwood, Northfield, Summers Point, and it's been really well received because it's not going to be, and I think Mr. Chowdhury said it best with immigration, that not every situation is the same, right? None of these situations, we can't give you a script. We can't give you a black and white answer for these situations. We can just help you build your toolbox. And when we come in and do these trainings, it's so awesome to see the light bulbs go off with our officers, to see that connection and understand how important this is. And it's not just for children or people with autism, but these children turn into adults. And a lot of times we're seeing overlap with the mental health crisis, addiction, disabilities, family disabilities that are cyclical. So, we really just want to support the officers in receiving members of their community and having better outcomes.
Great. And Jen, you've done some training that involves law enforcement as well, correct?
Yes, so our program regularly conducts CIT or crisis intervention trainings with law enforcement all throughout the state. Basically, these presentations consist of a general overview of intellectual and developmental disabilities, some behaviors that law enforcement may see on a call that may present as noncompliance, such as lack of eye contact, like we said, maybe stimming, things like that. And then we go over some basic de-escalation techniques and strategies. And from what we've heard so far, we're getting really good feedback. And the law enforcement officers have said that they're very happy for the additional support, because a lot of officers, I guess in the past, before having this knowledge, kind of went into these calls blind and really weren't sure how to handle situations.
And Robin, what can you tell us about some of the challenges unique to the younger population as it pertains to juvenile justice?
Yeah, so currently our program, we work primarily with individuals who are 21 and older involved in the criminal justice system, but it would sort of be amiss of myself and my team to neglect the fact that every adult was a child, was an adolescent at some point in their lives. So we are starting to dig a little bit deeper into juvenile justice and some of the sort of implications that come about for this population specifically. So what we do know is that there's a lot that has to do with the education system. I mean, in so many words, this prompting the school to prison pipeline. So, one example of that in recent years for good cause is the higher implementation of school resource officers in our schools. Now, the thought behind that, like I said, is ideal. We want to have a presence of an officer in the school to protect the students. And I agree with that. However, you have to understand that from that point that now there's an officer in the school, they're viewing situations that occur with students, with teachers in a more law enforcement focused way. This comes into play specifically with individuals with IDD. So in other words, we keep talking about misinterpretation of behavior. So in some of the cases that we have reviewed, there's been a few situations in which an individual, let's say autism, was having an outburst, having a hard time, and in essence hit another student. That was actually criminalized because of the school resource officer presence stating, this is what we saw, this is assault. So, I see the pros and cons to that, but that's one example of sort of the barriers that we're seeing with this population. What we also know is that individuals with IDD are at an exponential risk of getting more expulsions and suspensions compared to those without a disability. So what we're seeing is this cycling, like kicking out of this school district. Now this individual with autism, Down syndrome, FASD is in another school, having the same issues, expelled. Now we're starting in another school. So very rarely are we seeing the underlying deep-rooted issues being addressed for this population. We're seeing sort of like a Band-Aid thrown at the disservice, to the individual with IDD. I could really go on, but I'll stop.
Well, it's a really unique challenge that it presents because we started off this morning talking about the idea of overcoming discrimination by treating everyone the same and treating their actions the same. But Robin just provides an example as to why that's not always possible or not always maybe necessarily helpful to the individuals involved. Mm-hmm. But I think the law enforcement in this room and particularly on the panel should be commended for their openness and eagerness to learn about the population they serve, particularly and the challenges that they present. So I'd like to thank our panel. I'll ask them to hold here, but if we could all give everybody a round of applause. Okay, and now I'll bring up Siobhan for our closing remarks. Right, Siobhan, ready? Okay. And if everybody could give Siobhan a round of applause for putting this together.
Thank you, Rick. And let's give all of our panelists one more round of applause. I'm so excited that you all came out to support today, and it's fantastic to look around the room and see so many people from different backgrounds and different professions all coming together for the same mission. And it's our duty, not only as public safety leaders, but as members of the human race, to acknowledge our biases and fight and combat them together. And we can't do this in a vacuum. We have to do this as a collaboration. So I encourage you to have these conversations and continue them outside of this room. And I know that you all will continue the fight and contribute to our mission. I hope that you all enjoyed today's event. If you go to the registration table, there are QR codes available for a very, very brief survey, just asking you what you thought of today's event and any recommendations, as well as a QR code in the back. We've got our intern Gianna holding them. And you can also request to collaborate with us. But thank you so much, everyone, for coming today, and have an enjoyable and safe weekend.